In speaking, we have to understand that audiences remember best what they hear first and what they hear last. Therefore, the way we open a speech is critical, and the way we close it is just as important. There are 3 tools you can use to make sure your closing makes an impact. Number 1, signal that you're closing. Like I tell my audiences, always tell your audience when you're closing so they'll listen again. It's true. Audiences won't always listen to every single thing you say during your speech. Sometimes their minds wander. However, when you tell them you're closing, they'll perk up and peek up, and they think, he'll probably be summing up the message now, so I better listen. So how do you do this? Well, I like to paint a picture by saying something like, let's wrap up this message, or as we wrap up this message, or as we bring this event to a close. What you want to guard against is the old in conclusion or in summary. Be more creative than that. Your speech deserves it. So number 1, signal that you're closing. Number 2, as we close, we should call back to our main points and anything else that might be worth revisiting. For example, with my 4 R's to remarkable results, it goes something like this.
So here's the message. Let's drive it home. You face reality. What is your scale? You master what you measure. Once you face reality, how you respond to it is critical. Are you hanging around the crabs in the barrel, or are you like my friend Steve, the first to get in line and embrace new changes and opportunities? Once you face reality, you relinquish what's in the way because you're either on the way or you're in the way. Then you rely on the people and process through the vision, okay, and through those 4 steps we talked about, and then you reform to a better way. Is it by changing all at once? It's by changing small and changing. Now you got the message. Let's just leave with a little bit of motivation.
So as you can see there, I called back to my main points, the 4 R's. I revisited some of the memorable lines of my speech. In fact, because I do callbacks throughout my entire speech, by the time I reach the end, my audience is usually saying the phrases along with me. And that's powerful because remember this, if they say it, it's true to them. They'll buy into it. So number 1 is to signal that you're closing. Number 2 is to use your callbacks. And number 3 is once you signal that you're closing and you do your callbacks to your main points, you must finish with a bang. In my experience, the very best way to finish a speech is the same best way to start a speech, and that's with a closing story. Now, what should this closing story do? 1 thing. Give hope. Hope for what? Hope that your process or your formula or whatever you got across to them will work for them. For example, I often end with a story about how I went from being this 10-year-old kid with a speech impediment that was so bad it had others referring to me as Daffy Duck, to me changing and growing into the world champion of public speaking. This is a heck of a story. And the 4 R's were my process. So when my audience realizes the 4 R's worked for me, a 10-year-old kid with a speech impediment, they'll have hope that the 4 R's will work for them too. So close with a story that gives hope. That's it for this week, and until next week, please keep speaking up. Speaking up.